Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the Genesis Ag Podcast. I'm Chris Allison, and I'm here today with Genesis Ag founder and president Phillip Davis, along with Mike Rother from Rother Farms in western Colorado. And gentlemen, what we were going to talk about today a little bit is the impact of coronavirus on producers and farmers around the country. It's a very tough conversation and tough topic to look at, but we'll just jump right in, and I want to get both of your opinions on what do you see going on out there and what do you see in the future for farmers.
Well, gentlemen, here's as a business owner, as a farmer, as a friend to a lot of farmers, what I'm hearing, what we're experiencing. I think the impact of the coronavirus is just now really going to raise its ugly head to another level because it's already affected from a business standpoint. But I think it's going to raise its head here over the next month, that we're really going to know how much this really has impacted or how much it's going to impact our industry. One of the things as a business owner that we're experiencing is we saw early in the game that everyone was still very hopeful, but the longer and longer and longer that it took to see a resolve, and as of right now, we don't know if there's going to be a resolve, that we see people's energy waning as far as the excitement that they're having about the 2020 crop. Now, that's what I'm experiencing. That's kind of what we're hearing when we talk to people, that there's a little bit of uncertainty to really know what to do and how much to really try to push for a very high yield due to the prices and the uncertainty in the industry.
Well, I can't disagree with the uncertainty part. I'm not one of those guys who's been here since before dirt was invented, but I've seen a few times of periods of uncertainty in the course of my career, and this one's different than any of the ones that I've been a part of, that I've been aware of, mostly because this uncertainty is nothing that we're doing. It's nothing that's caused from us. In the past, any uncertainty was market-driven uncertainty based on production, based on weather, based on stuff that we're used to dealing with. The markets are supposed to absorb any fear of overproduction or underproduction, and now we're getting this outside, it's not stimulus, it's kind of the opposite of that, just this outside pressure that there's really no precedent in recent memory that we can look to see how to deal with it. I'm probably much more isolated from the day-to-day effects than you are, Phillip. Out here where I am, we don't see very many people anyway. We've been social distancing since before it was cool, but I haven't noticed any real day-to-day issue with us. Our products still come via UPS the way they always do. All of our seed supplies have been able to get to us, all our fertilizer supplies. Fuel is cheap. That's a nice benefit for us. So day to day, I don't see any giant issue for me in my operation. One of the things that I do think is a positive of this is I'm pessimistically bullish, if there is such a thing, about our markets going into the future. I think we're setting up very similar to 2008, where we had the real estate market crash and all that other crap go on, and all of the real money in the real markets decided to go somewhere safe, and they went to commodities and to more historically safe places. And I think we could be setting up for something like that again. We'll see. I'll let you know here in about 6 months.
Okay, Mike, that sounds encouraging as far as your take on how this is going to shake out. We know how tough it's been. We know how really since 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, all has been kind of tough as far as commodity prices go. What are you seeing in other aspects? You're out in the far west. You're out in the what we would call the desert plains or high plains, and what are you seeing with other aspects of agriculture for your friends, for those that are kind of somewhat diverse and have things other than just the grain commodities that have other commodities selling? What are most of the guys experiencing out there?
Well, in our country, Philip, there's still a lot of cattle. I'm friends with lots of cattle guys. We sell calves that we produce to friends, and we try to grow a few our own, keep them ourselves. And the meat market has definitely taken it pretty hard. Just there's a processing bottleneck, and the coronavirus has definitely affected that. But there's nothing we can do about it. So I don't know. Guys who are strictly in the animal business, I don't know how they're handling that. I think there is some potential good that will come out of this. The Stalkers and Feeders Act is supposed to help protect us from issues like what we're dealing with now with giant quasi-monopolies on the processing industry. So I'm hoping that this bottleneck of or not feed products, but protein products coming to market may help shine a little light on that and get some relief for the protein industry, just to try to inject a little bit of diversity and competition back into that segment of the market.
Are there any bright spots that you're seeing?
Well, honestly, no more people than I get to interact with this time of year. I'm kind of a bad person to ask that question of. I'm seeing the same people I'd always see. I see my fertilizer guys. I see my seed guys. I see my magic juice guys. That hasn't slowed down any. So honestly, our life hasn't been affected too much. The parts at our local dealerships have been modified slightly, but we can still get them. So.
Okay, one of the things I experienced just recently, in fact, it was yesterday afternoon, is our restaurants here in North Carolina are just starting to open back up. And so I went to a pretty popular restaurant yesterday afternoon, just kind of kicking back, taking it easy. And so I was really quite shocked. We're at 50% seating capacity. So you have to be at least 6 foot away from everyone. So what they've done is they've just said, we're going to seat at 50% capacity. And a lot of restaurants have been doing that in Tennessee, but we're just kind of getting back in the swing of things here in North Carolina. And believe it or not, I was quite shocked that there wasn't people waiting to get into this restaurant, and they were still able to take more people in if the people had been there to dine with them. So I don't know how long it's going to take the general public to adjust back to what was the norm about going out to eat or going to the movies. That really has an impact on our industry, because if that restaurant can't serve the people, they're not going to be ordering whether it be the fillets or even the salad or the fresh vegetables. And so that has impacted our industry quite dramatically. And I think the general public doesn't realize that, because also talking to people at the grocery store who work there, and they're saying certain items are been in very high demand, but believe it or not, fresh vegetables have not been one of those. Because I guess if people are on a kind of a budget, they're trying to get staples, and they're not buying the fresh vegetables like they were. So that's one of the things I've just recently saw in talking with people, and they're sharing their experience with me.
Well, that's terribly interesting. I wonder on the fresh produce, what some of the driving factor of that would be. I know there's quite a little waste in the restaurant industry. I don't know that industry well, but I wonder if just because there's less waste, people are only buying what they eat instead of having to throw a bunch out. If there was like a false economy or false demand just based on the built-in waste in the system, maybe.
Well, Micah, some friends of mine live down in Raleigh, and they have two children. I think one is 16 and the other daughter maybe 12. And their typical thing is they may share one meal a week, but when this hit and they couldn't go into the office and work, so that put them back together. When I say the family network back together, so they started having meals at home, and it really changed the dramatic or the demographics of how that family functioned, because instead of going out 5 or 6 nights a week or ordering and picking it up and bringing it home, they were starting to make those meals there. They were starting to share that time together. So where the industry, as you're saying, may like on a salad bar or what have you, that, well, we've got to throw that out because we didn't use it, we can't put it out. And if that's in someone's home, they'll say, well, we'll just use that tomorrow. And understand. And you know, how this is going to impact restaurants like, say, Ruby Tuesdays with the open salad bar. That was their forte. How are they going to come back and respond to this?
Right.
Because that's going to be pretty interesting.
Well, there's certainly going to be some changes. And of course, if we could foresee all of them, we wouldn't have to do what we're doing for a living. But all of the working from home, learning from home, all of that stuff, it'll be interesting to see how much of that sticks and how much we revert back to doing things the way we've always done them.
Yeah, that's true, because typically we as human beings, we like to hit the easiest way and not necessarily put a lot of time and effort into it. So if we can accomplish something by doing it easy, and that's what we tend to do a lot of times, because I think, Mike, you know, as farmers, we want to get that large number of acres planted. We want to get it planted as easy as possible. And when you start implementing some of these extra steps, you know what that does? It can slow you down.
Right.
I don't want to use the word bottleneck, but it can become a bottleneck if you're not prepared for it.
Certainly.
So this transitioning into different thinking, different approaches, and I think that's one thing that this whole event's going to do for all of us. It's changing how we'd got accustomed to doing things.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a very enlightening conversation, and we appreciate you being with us today. And for everyone listening, we hope you can join us for the next edition of the Genesis Ag Podcast. Have a great day.